we might have some problems in our hands. Otherwise, and hopefully, this should go on stream. Maybe. Hey, I'm looking at my own ads. That's lovely. Okay, I am on stream. That is perfect. Alright. This is day 9. Well, day 9 as in stream day 9, but technically speaking, this is not the first day. Not the 9th day. Okay, so for those of you who are just joining in, my name is Charles, and I will be live streaming my production on, or my section of the MGA game, mobile game that I'm programming. Here, you probably want to see what I'm doing, so let me turn that off. Oh, okay. So, as a rundown, I'm doing a series of documentaries in order to help others who are in my group to know how to program, or at least to know the basics of programming for a game. And so these series are designed for people who might not have any experience with programming, or maybe they just want to relax and look at someone else's thinking and work. That being said, for those who can't catch the stream regularly, they are being archived at youtube.com/ProgrammingIncluded. That is again youtube.com/ProgrammingIncluded. I try to live stream when I'm working on the project. That being said, I have been working on it without live streaming at times due to some internet problems. I couldn't stream every single time I work on it. Okay. Otherwise, and other than that, I will get started as we have something else planned at 1 o'clock. And so I want to start working on my portion of the project. Now today, if you look at the title, I will be working on animated sprites and just the game engine in general. Currently, we have our folders separated into engine leveled stuff, logic leveled, and then some more implementations. In fact, this is not the most updated. Right now I am on the engine branch, but if you go on to the GitHub, or if you just go on to the GitHub thing, you can see that there is an enemy branch. Now, enemy branch will be updated with more enemy implementation. So eventually we're going to be merging these branches together. Yeah. Okay, double check and make sure that my video is running. Yes, it is. Good. Alright. And so just so you know, I used to have a second monitor, but that monitor broke, so I can't use it now. Hopefully, eventually, I'll be able to get a new monitor so that you will not have to see my lovely broadcasting softwares. Alright, so today I will continue working on this new class that I created called, if I could refresh my project here, called Animated Game Object. Now, Animated Game Object is the game object that is in charge of animated sprites. So if you recall from the game object video, or unless I didn't say it in that video, game objects are anything in the play field and anything that exists with a visual aspect to it, anything that has a sprite. And so we're going to be utilizing that to be able to animate our game. Now, after some diagrams and design choices, it seems there is going to be one portion of this programming that might not be agreeable to some programmers out there. And we'll see how it goes. But it has to do something along the lines of, perhaps one might argue, ugly inheritance, but we'll see. All right. So as you can see, I've laid some foundations for what this class should do. We have two objects. We have the texture region object, that libgdx, which is the library that we're using, will utilize an animation that will be in charge of keeping track of which texture region we are utilizing or using to draw out into the screen. Now, just like any other stream, I don't remember everything that libgdx has to offer, so I'm going to check out its documentation and look at the sample code for me to understand, and also the API in order to understand how exactly libgdx will work. So, and then, as always, if you're working on this project by yourself, I highly recommend opening up at least the API or their wiki on the GitHub website in order to understand how exactly each class works. Okay, so I guess in order for me to actually test this thing out, I will need to have some kind of sprite sheet. So let's do that. All right. Let's do a simple resolution here. 256 by 256. Divide that by 2. That gives me 108. No. Wow. 128. And so that would give me 4 frames. If I can do 4 frames for, it'd be great if I could select okay. Nope, I do not want that. Thank you very much. See if I could. So I need and let me just get a quick sprite. This is probably wasting a lot of people's time. So I'm gonna get sprite sheet, free sprite. Okay, this is a sprite sheet, I guess, that we could utilize for testing purposes, and eventually we could get rid of them and use it with actual sprite sheet. Let's see, something not too complicated. Perhaps okay, that is an awkward Twitch text there. Moving on. Let us do this thingy. Save link as, and we're just going to put it inside my MGA folder, which is inside saves, no, programming desktop, saves, programming, libgdx, Gradle, desktop, bin, and so all our assets are in this folder, by the way. Okay. I'm gonna put it inside texture and right there. Perfect. Running cat.png. Save that into our place, and we're gonna continue. Okay, so from our lovely sample text, and also from our code, what I'm going to try to do is much like GameObject class, where it's in charge of a sprite right over here. Instead of a typical GameObject draw function, what we're going to do is we're going to create our custom draw function in animated game object. And what it's going to do is it's going to do the draw that's specific to the animated sprite. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat, or you can always, if you have me on Skype, chat me on Skype. Okay. And feel free to ask me or call me on Skype if you have any questions. All right. So we have this setting up, which is a create function, which is basically setting up the texture so that we're able to have an animation playing. Now, obviously, since we don't know what texture each game object or animated game object will use, we will need to have it defined for us inside the constructor. So whoever is going to create an animated game object will have to be in charge of creating the region in which the sprite kind of rectangles will exist. Because how animated sprites work are basically you have a giant sprite sheet, and the sprite sheet is broken down into multiple smaller pictures like so. And so what the program is going to do is it's going to get a rectangle of this giant sprite sheet, and then it's going to count that as one image, and it's going to run through all those images, and because of the speed at which it's running through those images, it looks like these pictures are moving. Now, that being said, what's actually happening is this entire texture is being uploaded into the memory. Oh, well, at least hopefully that's what the library is doing, but usually what's happening is it's uploading this into the memory directly, and then instead of having separate textures every single time, it just kind of crops the image to that smaller rectangle. So that way it saves memory, and calls to the GPU, stuff like that is hopefully saved or optimized. But again, I'm not the author of libgdx, so I can't guarantee that it's optimized, but hopefully it is. And I trust that the creators of this library have optimized it. Okay, so let's get started. So for the constructor, what we first need is a sprite, because without a sprite, I won't have a texture. Without a texture, I can't really do the things I've mentioned before to get the smaller rectangles inside that picture. So let's import sprite here. And much like GameObject, it must contain a sprite, otherwise it would utilize the default sprite. Now if it utilizes the default sprite, which will just have a default constructor, and one of the things in programming, thank you Avira for popping out of nowhere, one of the things in programming is that, at least for Java, it's best to give options for different types of functions. Like for example, you could have a default constructor, an overridden constructor, maybe have an even more specific constructor later on. That way, whoever's using your code is able to quickly utilize it without having to kind of use one constructor and call consecutive functions to do what they want, when you could just utilize an overridden constructor that does it for you. So that's kind of more clean coding, and it's one of those things that puts you in a lot of trouble when you're coding, because you have to do a lot of sort of repeated code, but it saves other people a lot of trouble. So okay, so for the default constructor, what we're going to do is we're going to just call the other constructors. And what's the name of the default? Go. Just gonna give it a variable that I already have planned called default go name. And Let's see, what else do I need? I need a sprite, so let's use null. Give it null. Because what we're going to do is later on we're going to parse that and say if null, set it to the default sprite. So I just realized I really need a second monitor for this. It's sitting right next to me, but it doesn't work. It's too old. Anyways, where was I? Oh yes. When you have a constructor, you want to make sure that you're able to quickly optimize your constructor by calling mutators, because then you don't have repeated code. So, for example, inside my game object, I have this mutator or setter called set sprite, and the set sprite will return false if the sprite is null, and a whole bunch of other checks if there's any. And so what we're going to do is, much like this code here, zoom in a little, much like this line of code here, it says set sprite, if false then do this stuff here. So we're just gonna in fact, sprite, let's see, string common nulls undefined for type animated game object. That's not good. Let me see. Before I work on that, what I can do is I could call super, the base class constructor, and give it the name and the sprite, because the base class is already kind of in charge of dealing with a name and a default sprite. Now, if you have no idea what's happening in the base class, I recommend you could always check out the source code, or you could watch the previous videos. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I have to apologize for last stream I realized my audio board was set up incorrectly. I plugged the stereo output into a mono output, which made the sound really awful, and you couldn't hear me in high definition stereo. So now that it's been fixed, hopefully I sound much better, and later on when we have a meeting, hopefully the group members will also sound normal. Okay. So what's happening is this default constructor is calling another constructor, which then calls the base class constructor, which then sets up this lovely name and the default sprite for the game object. Because after all, animated game object is, or extends game object. Okay. And also just a question to, okay, never mind, you answered my question. Okay. And so same thing with animated game object, we're just going to call the constructor, and usually what happens is all the simpler constructors, all these constructors that don't have a lot of parameters will actually call the other constructors that have more parameters than them. So that way we don't have to keep on rewriting the same amount of code. And in this case, this constructor is again going to call this constructor with the most parameters. In fact, we need to make this the even more parameters by looking at what requirements are required for creating a texture region, which is what we're trying to do for animation. In this case, we need a height and we need a width. What is frame underscore columns? Ah, okay. Or my bad, we shouldn't use height and width, we should do integer rows and integer columns, because what we're going to do is, since it's an animated sprite, we must assume that each well, we don't have to assume, but in the sake of our game and for the sake of simplicity, we're going to assume that each texture region has the same width and length. So that way we could just get the number of pixels of that texture and then divide it by the number of rows and number of columns. Alright. And so now we have this really long constructor, and we're going to just call this constructor like so. In fact, yeah, that's fine. I was thinking whether or not we're going to require a row and column for a animated game object, because animated game objects must have a defined texture region, and it would be a waste for someone not to utilize a game object, animated game object, if you're not going to use an animation. That being said, there might be a time where we need to test something static using an animated game object. So I guess we'll just implement default parameters into these like so, as 1, 1. So we're assuming it's just a one large sprite that's just one box size. Okay, let me check what that question was. Hopefully there's not much lag on this stream. Isn't the length and the width proportional to a pixel? Isn't the length and the width proportional to a pixel? Not entirely sure what that means, but what the length and the width means is it's the length in pixels of the picture, and the width is the length in pixels of the picture. And we could double check that by looking at the documentation. If we look at texture region, which we could call texture region, double check where it is. Here it is. Texture region dot split, which is the function we're eventually going to call. It says function to create tiles out of this region, starting from top. Here it is, a tile's width in pixels and a tile's height in pixels. So when we say height and width, that's the pixel length. And when we talk about rows and columns, that's dividing that width by the amount of rows. So we get the amount of pixels per box. And just in case you were wondering, the first pixel is indexed as 0. And the reason why I mention that is because if the first pixel was indexed as 1, then when you divide by the number of rows and number of columns, you get overlapped pixels, unless your last pixel is somehow uniquely numbered to fix that. But that, I think that's overthinking things. So, okay. So we have two constructors, one that doesn't accept anything, one that accepts a sprite, and one that accepts everything. I think we're missing some things. Actually, let's do this. So for people who want to give a sprite, they must give the rows and the columns, because since you're giving in a sprite, we assume that you have it as a sprite sheet. And one more that we can have is just giving the name. String name. Like so. And we're going to call again the largest constructor that we have. And just so you know, when we pass in null, it sets it to a default sprite, which depending on whoever's implementing their game or this source code would have different default sprites. Okay, so now that everything is kind of pointed to this constructor here, we just have to start actually implementing logic. Now, the name and the sprite has already been kind of handled for us, and so now what we need to do is to create the texture region. So let's see here. Oh, I forgot to ask. Not sure if you guys can see the text on the screen, because I'm not sure if I set up my bitrate correctly, but hopefully this text is clear and visible as day, night and day, I guess. Okay. So in this case, we have texture split. Okay. So I'm just gonna shamefully copy and paste this code and then modify it to see what I need, since it's hard to scroll through that text. In fact, why am I typing it out? I could just copy and paste. The marvel of technology. It's amazing. Okay. So we have walk sheets, which is, what is that? That is a texture. So we need to get the texture from our sprite. So we're just going to do this dot, oh, let it load. This dot get sprite dot get texture. So hopefully we don't have to call this multiple times. And then afterwards we need to do width and height. So let's do this. In fact, let me do a texture. Now, one might be wondering here, why don't I just utilize the sprite that's been passed in through the constructor? And the reason is because we did some kind of processing for that sprite through GameObject. So we don't know whether or not that sprite was valid, in other words. Since someone might have given it some malicious sprite that might infect our GameObject. And so we're going to get the sprite that we know for sure is safe, which is stored inside GameObject here. In fact, I can most likely make this protected without anything getting angry at me. Double check. Unless I have something important in set. You know, never mind. Let's make it private. I don't remember what I did. So, okay. So we have this texture. And the reason why I'm getting a local copy of this texture and storing it in this local variable is because we're going to access it 3 times in a row. And so it'll most likely be faster if I store a local copy instead of calling functions 3 times, the same functions 3 times. Get width, I think, yeah, width. And we're going to do it again for this one. Height. There we go. And so now underscore columns, we're going to divide by columns. In fact, I'm going to flip these two. Columns, rows, so that it's kind of more in line with what we have. Columns, rows, and of course I gotta flip these now. Columns, rows, and so now we have columns and rows. Okay, so now we have a texture region that is a two-dimensional array, which we're going to eventually shove it into a one-dimensional array. It's interesting how the function split returns a two-dimensional array, even though eventually we're going to use it as a one-dimensional. Perhaps that's their design choice. And perhaps somewhere in the program it uses two-dimensional arrays rather than one. Okay. And so now what we need to do is split it into one-dimensional and put it in. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a static function for that, because that code seems very useful. And it seems that it might be important later on. Actually, let's not do that, because we don't see any use for it. If later on we need it, then I'll add it, because static involves much more resources and I don't want to waste the precious resources of an Android computer device. Now, if I was programming for a computer that has hexacore processing, then that's another story. And also like 32 gigabytes of RAM or something like that. Okay. Walk frames, which is our frames, and index plus plus. Can't tell how much people are watching the stream because the thing says I'm offline for some reason. Maybe I should update. It is updated. Okay, that is weird. Okay, I don't know why Twitch is so weird. Okay, index plus plus. Wow. I gotta do index shamefully or not shamefully, copying that in. Okay, looks good. And what else? Okay, everything else seems simple. We don't need a sprite batch for now, and we don't need a state time, I don't believe. Right, we don't need a state time. Nope, we do need it. Since we need to keep track of the amount of time that has passed. In fact, this state time probably doesn't need to be protected. It could be private, since no one's ever going to access that, hopefully. Well, it's due to how our folders are structured, or how our project is structured. The only people who could access these are basically engine-related stuff, which is, i.e. me, so don't need to worry too much about that. And then, so now we're just going to initialize this animation time, set it equal to 0, and get our animation, a new animation. What is this function? What does this do here? Let's check. Animation starts with an A. Animation. And I believe that function was called the constructor. So, frame duration. So, frame duration, my guess, is the speed at which it's playing. Playback speed. PB speed, I guess, could be called. And we're just going to default it to 1. For now. In fact, this is something that sounds very important, so we're gonna do static float default, actually static, final static float default underscore playback speed. So depending on who you had as an instructor and who you had or your philosophies in programming, this might look ugly, because some people think that static should be used only when necessary. Well, for Java anyways, and from what I've learned from my instructors and from what I've seen through Java, it's not too much of a worry of how much processing you're using. Rather, it is how much convenience you can give to the programmer. And in this case, if we define a static, public static, final static float, If we define it like this, then we could quickly change the default playback speed if needed. So yeah, copy this. And I really like this type of ideology because nowadays computers are fairly fast. So we're not too worried if we use like a tiny fraction of its memory to be able to store a static variable. That being said, again, it depends on your target audience, because if your audience is using a Windows 98, you probably want to not do that. Just saying. You could if you want, but probably not. Okay. And later on in my commenting, I have to make note of what exactly is the units or are the units for PB speed. And someone just typed, how to join meeting? Good question. You can call me right now. Smiley face. Okay, saying that out loud is very awkward, especially when you're on stream. I should unmute my computer so that people can hear. I'll let him call me in case he has something to do. And of course, those viewing this Twitch chat, if you have my Skype, you could always call me to be able to ask me any questions that you want. Okay. So animation will need a PB speed, and we need to give it the frames that we have. And there we go. And I believe that... Hello? Okay, good. Just so you know, Nick, I am live streaming, so if you don't want to be on live stream for some reason, let me know, and I just need you to sign a waiver. Just kidding. Yeah. So our meeting starts at 1, by the way, so you're slightly early by 7 minutes. And so I'm trying to finish up the animated sprites. And so if you don't see my screen, see if I could share it with you on Skype here as well, because Twitch has some lag. Twitch.
Hello?
Oh, I hear you. I think I hear you. Yes, I do hear you. How are you doing?
What are we supposed to be doing?
I just realized my audio is probably going to go through this line. Hold on. Okay. You could hear yourself, right, Nick?
Hmm?
You could hear yourself, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it really loud?
Well, I mean, when I talk, I can always hear myself regardless. I think it's through my side.
I mean your mic. I mean your speakers. Oh, doesn't seem like it.
What?
Perfect. Okay. Can you talk again?
Hello?
Perfect. You're on stream. Good. Alright. Let us continue. Can you see my screen, or do you want me to share it with you? Let me share it with you.
I cannot see your screen. Can
you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's blurry.
So I was oh, it's blurry?
Never mind. It's okay now.
Okay. I was explaining to the Twitch audience that I was implementing animation, and right now this is how the animated game object looks like. Okay.
Okay. So, what does this do?
Get into the meeting around 1-ish. I kind of started later, so I might start the meeting slightly later as people slowly come here. Okay. So what did you ask? What does this do?
This looks like it just kind of adds frames.
Right.
Into...
Exactly. So what I'm trying to do is, right now I've just pretty much finished the setting up constructor, and now I need to make sure that things actually get outputted when I yeah. Oh, just realized before I accidentally press play, I need to change my audio because my current audio is copyrighted. Gasp.
Wait, why is that
Yes?
why is it bad if it's copyrighted?
Because YouTube is very strict on their audio policies. Twitch doesn't, but YouTube does.
Oh.
And so when I do a kind of restream on YouTube, my audio disappears. Okay, let's do music that I made. Yay. Oh, it's a .wav file though. Darn it. Okay. Copy. Paste. Let's hope this error sound file works. I'm gonna go into my config folder and edit that out here. Oh. No, I do not want to update right now. There we go. So how was your day, Nick?
I went to. Whoa.
Okay, it works.
Okay, but I don't see anything being framey or animated.
Of course not. I was just testing the audio to see if it works.
Oh.
Oh, and also those on the stream, for documentation purposes, we were able to implement a config parser so that every time that we have our own default error sounds or error textures, we don't have to edit the source code, because GitHub gets kind of ugly if we keep on pushing changes in our config files. So, and this is what the source code looks like. And
Well, what's wrong with that?
Because
what's wrong with the text file again?
the text file is so that we could change the folder and the name of our default files without having to edit the source code directly.
Okay.
Previously, it was hard-coded into our game. Alright, moving on. So we have set up an animation, and now we just have to play it. But the question becomes, how do we play an animation? And the answer to that is using the draw function, which was defined inside our base class. So we're just gonna shamefully copy and paste that. Oh, it's static. Never mind. I need to do something. I need to update this draw function. Okay. I need to edit this portion. Okay, so this is the part in the stream that I mentioned where it might be very controversial, and also people might hate this type of programming style, and it's because it usually is associated with ugly inheritance, and there might be ways to overcome this, but since we've been so far into the project, I think the trade-off is necessary, and if something really bad does occur, then we will fix it in the long run. Okay, so I'm going to use the dreaded instance of.
Wait, but I'm using instance of all the time.
Yes, but that usually means that your inheritance may or may not have a problem. Of course, it's not always the case, but it's a clear indication that you could probably make your design decision either something different or something better.
Oh.
Oh, someone just... Ah, yes. Nate. I can add you right now. Are you available? There. Okay. Continuing on. If this game object is an instance of game object, and I think we could most likely fix this by having another class that's actually in charge of drawing these game objects, and then separating game object and animated game object, but it's fine for what it is. Because the problem arises because we have a base class that wants to take care of its children. Oh, Alright, thank you very much, Nate. You can attend even more of a live experience via Skype. Batteries not included. Okay. So if Go is an instance of animated game object, then we're going to do something else. Otherwise, we're just going to draw it like a normal default sprite. Like so. Put it there. I'm going to do the sprite dot equals 2. I would say, I don't know. I would say, I'm not sure. Let's do lithium AAA. Okay, and the sprite check, game object check. And we're almost done, come on. What do I need to do? My brain's drawing a blank. Look at what the thing did.
Wow.
So this tick will, of course, call the super tick. Ah. That won't work, would it? Tick. Okay, so it's abstract. We're going to make this abstract. Bless you. In fact, I probably don't need to declare it at all, right? Public abstract class. I forgot to call that. Okay, we're good. Good. So how do we update the frame? Or who would be in charge of that frame? We need to do it inside update here. It needs to be inside tick, huh? Or in fact, I know what to do. Okay, I fixed the error of instance of. Never mind. People don't have to go hating on me now. See, because the best way is the way that doesn't use instance of. So instead, I'm going to create another static function called public static draw. Void. And see if I could do delta time. Okay, good. And we're going to do the same exact thing as here. But rather than things are getting complicated. Okay. I retract my statement. I have to do this ugly thing.
Hey.
Did you get 1 billion?
1 billion what?
What are you reading? What are you listening to?
Right. Okay. And so
Who's that?
now-
That's Charles.
Hello, good sir.
Are you guys screen sharing?
He's screen sharing. He can't see my screen.
Can he even hear you?
Yes.
Oh. Right now?
Mm-hmm.
Right now? Didn't you mute it?
No. What? Is it muted?
No.
It's not muted. Get your hand off.
I'm not even doing anything.
Okay. Continuing
Heck,
onward.
what is this?
Stop touching my stuff and get out of here. Get out of here.
Okay. Game object, which is over there. Gotta love downtime. Okay. Seems to be the only option for this.
What is this song
This song.
that you were just playing?
This song is the
Oh, where'd you get the jelly
Valkyria Chronicles, I believe. The
What?
piano version of the I can't say it. The series Chronicles. Valkyria Chronicles.
What is this meeting for? Do we just watch you code
Nope.
the entire time?
Nope. I'm almost done. I'm still waiting for someone else to come on. And also, I need to get Nate on. Nate, can I call you? But thank you for reminding me that I should most likely start the meeting soon.
You start the meeting? Oh.
Yes. We have 2 people
So
that are going to come on very soon.
the thing with animated game object is that would collision object ever extend animated game object? Because most of my things extend. Because I mean, shootable extends collision object, enemy extends shootable, all my implementable enemies extend enemy. So
Darn. Java doesn't have multiple inheritance. That's a pain
It
in
doesn't.
the butt.
it doesn't.
It does not.
So,
It does not. It definitely does not.
Yeah.
so then, would you update collision object? Get off my bed, May.
Well, the simplest way to do this is just make our game object have to accept an animation.
Oh.
That seems to
Oh.
be the only way to do it. Let me draw a diagram here. GO,
But
collidable,
collision object is on your end, right?
right? And I have to fix that once I get animated working. Or I could implement an animated collidable. I think either way works. But then we'll have 2 copies of basically the same exact thing.
Mm.
Oh, wait, no. Not entirely. Because animated game object requires a What it requires a
What? Hold on. I am going off. I am going away from keyboard.
Okay. Nate. Ah. Nate,
Yes.
I like your profile.
Oh, thank you.
It's very ornate.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Now we're missing just one person whose name is Hao Jia, and let me see if he's on. Yeah, Frank couldn't make it. Well, Frank said he might be able to make it, but he didn't. He's not on, so that means I assume he couldn't make it. Albert is not here, and yeah, there's one more person. Okay, continuing on. Right now I'm stuck in the problem, which is inheritance and how our classes will work since Java does not support multiple inheritance. Can we use interfaces? Oh, nope. Haojia is here. Okay, so let me see if I can wrap this up as soon as I can so that we could talk about what we need to talk about today. Let's see here. Stream. I just realized I have 140 views. Dang, that is a lot. That makes me wonder how many mistakes I've made on stream. Okay. I need to check Java's interface static. You cannot define static methods in interfaces. That is alright. So that doesn't work. How about static members? Okay, perfect. Alright, so we're going to create a new interface called tracker? No. What would it be called? Yeah, tracker. And it's going to contain, using what we have here, these three members. Okay. It's going to be public, and public. There we go. What's the problem now? Oh.
I'm back.
Oh, right. And I'm almost... I think I had it in my head now. So... I just need to add one more person. Interface of static. Java implement static variable. No, what am I doing? Java interfaces static variables. How do they work? Okay, guys.
Don't
If-
you? Can't you just like not have the equal sign?
Wait, hold on. If you implement a static variable inside an interface,
Yeah.
is that variable static for that interface, that class that implements that interface? So suppose, let's say I implement this interface from GameObject and then I implement it again on animated GameObject. Do they share the same static reference, or are those statics different?
I'm pretty sure polymorphism implies that they all share the same static variable, right?
Okay. All right.
I can't be sure though,
Okay. Okay.
because our teacher always says, "Don't use static variables. Don't use static variables." So we never learn how to use static.
Ah, yes. I remember you said that. Yeah, it's weird how every teacher has their own kind of philosophy in programming. Okay.
But I wish we could learn static variables better in that class. Whatever.
Darn it. This is gonna be more of a pain in the butt to work with. Okay, I guess I'll have to stop this for now, since we're not gonna have a time for our meeting otherwise. This tracker, garbage collector, that doesn't work. Oh man. But now it's like things stucking. I can't even talk properly now. It's a Thor's thumb. Yeah.
Sore thumb.
Yeah. I can't say it. Sore thumb. Wow.
Yeah.
I keep on saying Thor thumb. So I need to figure out a way so that we can have animated goes, animated collidables, while keeping our old collidables static. The only way that I figure out the fastest way is to have GameObject just be animated by default, so it has the capability to be animated. Or we could have two branches, animated go, animated collidable, and go and collidable as the two branches. Which one should we do?
I think making a second animated collidable would be less convenient for me, but that's just me being lazy and not wanting to refactor.
Okay. Nate, any ideas?
Whatever everyone else wants to do.
Okay, that is so helpful. Okay, I'm gonna delete that. I am going to... Oh man. Some part of me is telling me this is so ugly, but another part of me is telling me it's what it is. And I believe, if I recall correctly, I'll just have to do this. Like...
I think
Anyway,
ugly and working code is better than not ugly and not working code.
Yeah, there was this thing that I read online that basically says there's comes a time in every programmer's life where you just can't optimize everything. And yeah, we just can't optimize everything. Oh man, my favorite music is on, but I can't focus, so I have to turn it off. Okay. So let me just do a to-do list here. Copy animated game object to here. Okay. And with that, we could start our lovely thing called meeting. Okay, Haojia, I will be calling you right now after I push this up to GitHub so I don't lose my progress. Bin build. Where is it? Oh, I'm already at core. Okay, GitHub 101. First off, you git add -- all git status to check what you've added. Git commit -m and add the message that you want. In this case, I want to say added more framework to animated go. Edited some other files for efficiency. And
Charles, does
that's
the position stuff work?
not yet. No, I've been working on game objects since the start. Since this thing is much more complicated than I thought it would have been. Okay, done. All right. With that, our meeting starts. Our 40-minute meeting, I guess. Okay, let me call Hao Jia here.
Oh, you have a lot of people on your list.
Oh, yes. Yeah. See if he could catch up. So if you're on the Skype, you don't have to go onto the stream, since you're gonna have double audio, which is gonna be awkward. Hao Jia, are you here?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Okay, you're kind of soft. Let me see if I could get this. Can you talk again? I think I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, not very loud, but yeah, it works.
So what about now?
Okay. So, I wanted to ask you guys how you guys are doing. First off, how's life since yesterday?
Life is good.
Good. Okay.
I've lost another day in preparing for midterm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I do that?
Oh no, I didn't get to study yesterday.
Oh, okay. Hopefully it wasn't my fault. If it is, I apologize in advance.
Oh no, well has nothing to do with the meeting today.
Okay. Other than that, I wanted to check up with you guys how you guys are doing in terms of your progresses. I know Haojia, you're working on the... Oh, just to recap, Haojia is working on the speed reading section of our game as sort of an experimentation as well as a testing thing. And Nick is working on the enemy classes and a little bit of projectile, which I will get to once I finish my portion, which is the engine, and I'm trying to implement the animated stuff, animated sprites right now. And Nate is, we still have
the ride.
Yeah, he came back after some time since he's sort of busy last time. So we'll find hopefully something that you could do, or do you not want to do something, or I don't know. What's your
I'd be
current
fine
situation?
doing something.
Okay, so we might need to get that situated today. Otherwise, Haojia, how was your independent study in Java?
So while you guys have been kind of focusing on the actual codes in the project, I've been trying to figure out a very important question, that is how to actually learn. It turns out, at least in my case, it isn't as straightforward as it could be, perhaps in yours, that to learn a new subject independently. How did you kind of like learn, for example, learn new programming languages and learn the ideas behind the programming design by yourself?
Learn the ideas behind programming design by myself.
That is, how did you come from the point where you need to kind of memorize the syntax to the point where you actually do this project that we are doing, or the likes?
It just works. It comes with just kind of start coding. Have a goal in mind and then start coding, because if you don't, what ends up happening is you start to forget stuff. It's like a language. You learn a language, if you don't utilize it, you start to forget that language. For example, for me, I know 2 speaking languages. I know, Mandarin, and I also know English. They're both my first languages, by the way. But if I realize that if I go to, let's say, a place where there's only Mandarin and I keep on talking Mandarin, when I speak English, I get this really weird I don't know, hard to describe it. Really weird
Accent thing.
accent thing. Yeah, and then your brain just can't like switch back. It's like it's still in Mandarin mode for some reason, and
Yeah, I
then
know.
later on, and you come back, and then you're into an English environment and keep on speaking English, and then you can't switch back to that Mandarin thing because your brain is kind of stuck in that. And then eventually, as you get more and more used to it, as you start, learning more into, since I can't write Mandarin, or Chinese in this case, I can't write. So as I learn more and more on how to write, I find that simpler to switch between the two languages. Yes, at sometimes it might be harder to switch. Like right now, if you tell me to switch to C++ and then Java again, I might have some problems because these two languages have different meanings. For example, I was just talking to Nick about how I realized Java doesn't have multiple inheritance, and that was something that it hit me that is probably going to be a problem later on in the long run, and so I should most likely keep that in mind. And so the answer to the short answer to that question is find a project, in which case you've already found one, but you could probably find a smaller projects as well if you have smaller goals, and then to pretty much start working on those smaller projects, and then to once you learn something new in your tutorial, let's say, or in your textbook, start having some sample code, start writing some sample code based on that idea. And that's usually how at least the programming classes that I've taken just for my GE, that's how they do it as well. They have one day of reading material and then a whole week for you to implement that idea inside a project, a real life project. And so, yeah, does that make sense?
Where are you taking this programming class?
Oh, it was just for my college GE for computer science. So it was just Java, intro to Java, and data structures, and the normal GE stuff that you have to take for computer science majors.
Okay.
But this was after me learning Java by myself. But this type of learning style is very nice for kind of enforcing what you learn, basically, and not just reading new material every time, because we don't have good memory. And with Java, there's a lot of syntax in Java, and in order to make it so that you're able to fluently utilize this syntax, utilize this grammar, you're going to have to start practicing. Much like, if you ask me what's the grammar for English, there's a lot of grammar in English, but I'm not, thinking precisely that I need to add a verb right after a noun, or maybe add some, adjective right before a noun or something like that. I don't think of it like that. I just say it without realizing. So programming is like that. It gets hard at first, but then later on, you're able to just translate your ideas directly down into the language. Okay, I need to catch my breath.
In my case, a lot of times I'm hesitant to learn something new, even though I know that it is something that interests me.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know how to learn it, well, let's put it this way. I'm actually from China,
Mm-hmm.
and English my second language.
Okay.
And in China, in its system, most students will need to learn English for a very long time. At least I think around 10 years.
Wow.
Since middle school.
Dang.
But most of these students, even at the end of the 10 years, they are still not able to speak English or use English very well. And there is a critique of the education.
Who's Azarus? Sorry.
there is a critique of the Chinese education system based on this that says the method for students to learn this language is not most efficient.
Okay.
And I actually by the time I was kind of graduating from high school, I have learned English for 5 years, around 5 years. But all I knew was kind of 1,000 words and some grammar, but nothing really helpful for me if I'm ever in a situation where I need to use real English. Right. That is the kind of English that we are using now. So I contemplated on this issue and the debate around it, and I decided to experiment by myself.
Okay.
And the way I came up to learn this was that under the circumstance, since most students, despite their efforts and time, are not able to use English very well. So for the few that are able to kind of master any aspect of English, were considered very exceptional. And I didn't believe this because, think about it, most people, despite what level of education they've received, are able to speak at least one language.
Right.
No matter kind of like what level of IQ they've been placed at. So I believe that if I were able to, I was already able to speak one language, that is the Mandarin Chinese. And I figured if I were able to replicate exactly how I was able to learn it, I could learn more. So the question was just that either I forgot how I learned it, or I didn't understand the way I learn language in a way that can be transferred to new languages that I'm learning. And at the end, my experimentation comes down to this. I focused on books by learning English by reading, but not just by reading the words, but also trying to create an environment where I can be immersed in this. So I decided on this series, Harry Potter, which I like very much since it came out. But up until that point, I had always been reading it in Chinese. And I read it, and I bought this English series. And I also bought this audiobook that is read by a British actor, Jim Dale. And he was very good at it. And he read all the series.
All right.
So now as I'm reading this book, I'm also having this audio kind of surrounding me. So I can get this feeling in between the lines. Because a lot of times when you're reading a novel, the reason it's so captivating is not exactly the words that's behind you, but actually your imagination of what is actually happening in a setting that these words represent.
Right.
So this created a very nice environment for me to be immersed in this, and the actual learning of the English language itself comes from my knowledge of Harry Potter.
I see.
So that is at that time I liked the series very much, and I read it, and I read all these books very many times. So I know the story very well, to the point that if you were to, I guess, pick any 2 lines from any page of any book and tell me that, and I'll know where that is, and that is, I guess, equivalent to kind of memorizing the whole dictionary, but just don't know or kind of what words correlate to which meaning. and now as I'm reading the English version, if I come across a sentence or a word I don't understand, I'll just stop and think about where this line could be in the Chinese version, and then immediately I know what the sentence means because I know the story. So the actual learning does not happen automatically. It happens in a very specific setting that I've created. And the benefit of this particular mode of learning is that after Harry Potter, I'm able to proceed to go on to more advanced reading, like Jane Eyre, for example. And I don't just stuck at this kind of like be done with this level. And well, even to this day, I'm still reading the English version of Harry Potter because no longer just for kind of improving, I guess, my grammar or my vocabulary. I'm also trying to this day to try to see what made the story so appealing, and try to incorporate these elements into my own writing. So there's a lot. So in this way, for me, that started as kind of learning a new language, goes on into learning about the culture, into learning about the discipline of literature. So I guess the my purpose of telling you this story is I'm trying to as I'm learning this computer science, I'm trying to find an approach that is as long-term beneficial to me as I did with the with English. And I found that it is not automatic and not very straightforward either to just jump into the middle of a project because there are a number of reasons. But in terms of the long term, the immediate problem is kind of the problem of relevancy. So how is this relevant to me? And I think I discussed this issue when I brought the speed reading thing to you the other week. That I think when we are done finishing this game, I probably wouldn't play it because I think there are kind of the purpose for this project is to learn these design elements, not to create kind of a best-selling game. So that is why for these past 2 weeks I've been I guess experimenting with different approaches to learning this new subject, and speed reading is one approach that I came up with that I thought is very it's very original in a way that it can go a long way past this just this game project. And what I've been doing since then is to I guess follow the curriculum of computer science at good schools, to try to capture what happens between the lines of code.
Okay, sorry, hold on.
And this is what I was thinking about last time.
Okay, sorry, hold on. There's someone making a lot of static noise right now. Okay. Whoever is using a vacuum cleaner, can you please mute your mic?
Sounds like vacuum.
No, I did it online. Okay.
I'll take that.
There is a vacuum cleaner.
I think it is a vacuum cleaner, yes.
Wasn't it 19th or 20th? Remember?
I am going to see if I could mute him. I can't. This isn't Google Skype. Ah, dang it. Nick, I'm going to end the call right now, since I think it's you that's making a vacuum noise. Okay? Oh, never mind.
Hello?
It died down.
Wait, what? What happened?
There was a vacuum noise and it was interrupting the call.
Oh.
Okay. I thought it was you, but I guess not. Alright. Haja, sorry, where were we? You were mentioning about your story, and then how, kind of recapping what we talked about last time, where you're trying to find something that interests you, and then so you're doing the Java course, and also that you are trying to work on a specific part of the game so that you're able to be motivated, i.e. the speed reading thing. Am I wrong or right? Did I catch your drift?
I guess you're seeing this the way you're seeing it, and I think, well, why I've been talking for 10 minutes is the way that I see this.
Right.
That is different.
But that's sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the gist of it, right? That's the summary of what you've been saying so far.
The monster is coming back. Well,
Okay, who is vacuuming their house right now? Please, if you are, can you mute your mic? Thank you. Alright. Continue.
okay. So, yeah. I mean, you can understand. You can understand my story your way or my way. I don't mind which one.
Well, the thing is, I can't fully comprehend your story, though, because your story is yours. You have your personal experiences with that, and I could go through the process of understanding the situation, but I can't have the same emotions that you feel. And so that's what I mean by I can't truly understand it.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just give more examples.
So what are you trying to get to? That's what I'm trying to say, because we are a little bit more on time today. So since we have other people here that we need to work with.
Well, what I'm doing is just chatting here, so it's not related to any. It's not related specifically to any part of the project we're working on.
Okay. Okay. So I think I started out this conversation by asking you how was your studies going, right? And then we went into a long story, or you asked me how to study a language, and then I talked to you about it. And then it feels like I'm repeating myself, though. That's the thing, because every week I feel like we're talking about the same thing.
I see. So you can't see you don't understand how exactly I'm making progress.
Well, it's good that you're making internal process, that you're sorting out things, and I understand you're trying to understand the situation in your mind, but the thing is, when you have process, you also have to be able to show that process. And it's true you've able to show a lot of things internally, and that's great. But it's like saying you love someone, you know. It's true you do love someone, but if you don't do anything, everything that you say up till this point, there is nothing else that you can. It's because I cannot truly understand how you feel. And that's why people say love is doing something, to be able to serve someone else. And so
I understand your situation. So that is precisely the circumstance right now. You see, when I was learning English by myself with Harry Potter, that is the same question that my parents threw me. That is, they do not see how I'm making progress, because all they see every day was that I'm reading the same book, I'm sitting by myself, and I did not produce anything in particular that is kind of that they can kind of observe. And I feel in this case maybe this is it's a similar situation where you see that I'm talking about same thing every day, and I'm just by myself, and I'm not particularly doing anything that you can, I guess, observe. And well, if that were the case, I guess perhaps this is the nature of the way I learn this. Well, I guess that is kind of a risk of experiments. So you only know if it is a success or failure at the end, because at the end that is when the result comes out. But well, if you want to see a particular kind of work to be produced, then you can just tell me, and I will see if there's any way to expedite it.
Okay, so Haoche, I wanted to make clear that I'm not trying to be mean, but what I'm trying to also say is that right now we're in an environment where we'll be able to experiment, like you mentioned. But sadly, when we go out to society, that is not usually the case. And so when if you want to find a job or something like that, your employer most likely would want to see results rather than talk about what you've been doing. But that being said, I'm definitely open if you have any other time, we could definitely talk about this more in depth and how you've been able to work to progress through this situation. But for right now, though, since everyone else is here and we want to be able to make sure that we don't bother their time, let's set this side up for now. And if you have more if you want to talk to me more about this, I'm happy to do that. But can you maybe meet up with another time that we'll be able to discuss this, and maybe I'll be able to pitch in my thoughts about how you're able to learn more or be able to inspire yourself more to be able to continue down this path. And so you mentioned what I require you to do. All I say is, like we've mentioned before, as long as you're interested in the project and as you keep on working on the speed reading, then all that I require is that you're able to get a running example going, like what we mentioned last time. And so see if you can try to get something, or at least be able to describe to me how the API works by Friday, next meeting, basically, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you want the if you want the working example, that would be the kind of I guess the end product.
Oh no, not the end product.
That is something like a demo. But if you want like you said like a description of it, then I guess it's just it's just reading.
Yeah. But when I say if you're going to do a description, I expect it to be a very in-depth description because the API is pretty broad, it's pretty sparse. So you'll be able to, when I ask, what functions do we need to call, you should be able to know what functions, what classes that are required, enough so that if you were to write the program, you should be able to do it. That's what I mean by understanding the API. You don't have to memorize, don't memorize, but just know the kind of general places that each object should be in.
Well, in this case, I think we need to kind of like talk more about this specifically.
Sure.
That is, well, first exactly what you mean by in depth. What kind of thing is in depth? And that is kind of, well, again, I've never read any I guess this manual for API any other before, so this is the first time.
Right.
And if you need something very specific, you need I need specific kind of direction. So that is what exactly do you think is important?
Do you remember last week when I mentioned about the sample code that was found on the documentation?
Yes.
Yes. So I think what I've mentioned was you could check out the sample code and then work from there, right?
Okay, then what we need, we'll just pull up the sample code and I tell you what I think about it, and you tell me what you think about it. Something like that.
Or you could try to get it up and running. That would work too. Just to get the sample code up and running, and then that way, that for me, I could tell that you'll be able to understand it, because if you're able to get it up and running, then I assume you're able to understand the code involved with it, because you could tinker around with it, etc., etc.
I'm trying to make this distinction, but I guess we can talk about this at a later time.
Okay, sure. All right. With that, let us talk to the other people that have been in the background trying to chit-chat with moons. They're sending pictures of moons. Okay. And galaxies. Wow, is this a wallpaper? Because if it is, I would use it. Let's see, what wallpaper do I have right now? I have people walking. I have no idea what this wallpaper is. Okay. Okay, so that's that. Now, Nate, I guess
Yes.
it's your turn now. You've mentioned that you wanted to work on the project. And I assume that you have time this quarter, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on, let me fix what Nick has. Nick, try using collidable.remove go. If you haven't used it already. Okay, then try to see if you can figure it out. If not, then I have to continue talking to Nate anyways. Okay, Nate, so how are you in terms of programming for Java?
I can learn it fast.
Okay, so you're pretty in-depth with C++, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so
It looks very similar.
It is pretty similar, except that objects are references, so pretty much you could treat them as pointers, smart pointers in C++.
Yeah, there's no pointers in Java, right?
Right, they're smart pointers. So basically,
Yeah.
Java takes care of memory allocation for you, which also means there are no
that's nice.
deconstructors. So you can't explicitly create a deconstructor.
So is it always in the heap then?
Well,
Is it
we don't really learn about that heap and stack thing in Java classes because there isn't really this
Need.
idea concept necessary for it. Rather,
Okay.
we think about it as primitives and non-primitives, and also basically classes and functions, methods.
Yeah.
It's a fairly simple concept to understand.
So yeah, so the thing that I would like to contribute on is like, I don't know, making like an item in the game or an object or something
Oh.
small for now.
Do you still remember what the game is about? I don't think you remember.
I can't remember. I
Okay.
think it was a shooting game.
Right. Basically, you have enemies coming down and you shoot it from the bottom.
Gotcha.
So, sure, if you want to do power-ups, basically, you could totally do that. Now, the thing is with power-ups, we need a character class. And our current
Okay.
character class is being handled by Frank, who is not here with us today.
Okay.
What else can I say? Frank is working on the character class, let's say, and right now the character class that we have is sort of loosely implemented because Frank is in charge of doing it, so we have kind of a dummy class in place to test some classes. And so for the power-up, what we need to do is we'll need to sorry, I'm trying to talk to Nick while talking to you. Okay. Power-ups. So power-ups will need to affect the character. So how our game engine works is that we have things called game object, and everything that is a game object must appear inside the game as a sprite. You could set it invisible, but one of the attributes is it has to be a sprite. It must have a sprite. And another is collision object, which is any object that involves colliding with other objects. It will be a collision object. And
meaning that it'll prevent from moving through it, right?
it will move through it. It's just that it would contact you if it collides with something. And if you want it so that it doesn't move through something else, then you could implement that code via that function. So it's just in charge of alerting the class that it's collided with something else. And then we also have, or eventually we'll have something called a shootable object. And what that is that any projectiles that hit this object will detract health from it or something along those lines. And the reason why we have shootable and collidable is because projectiles don't want to just access any random object. We want to be able to only access shootable objects. And so when you want to implement the power-up, I recommend reading into the documentation or just read into the source code for collision object. Because what's going to happen is the power-up is going to check if it's colliding with the character. And if it did collide with the character, then
Wait, Nate's
Okay.
working with power-ups.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
colliding with the character and then upgrade the character in some way, the stats. Or you could do it the other way, where the character sees if it's collided with the power-up.
我一来就马上换。
No, 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 no. 我的跟这个跟 This is the Skype chat.
But I do not recommend that.
Okay. So you said there's only one class.
In charge of collision, that's collidable. A collision
Okay.
object.
So like in the game when you pick, so there's not there's only like one type of character that you select.
There's only one type of character. It's not a character. It is a weapon. So the character
Okay.
is in charge of
So it's
storing health.
So it's
stats.
an animate object.
Right. And character
maybe
is in
that
charge of the
shoots
base stats. So your base stats can change, but
Gotcha.
depending on the weapon, that stat will.
So
be
what are
modified.
the stats?
That's in character. So stats would be like health, damage, stamina, movement speed, stuff like that. But again, since I'm not in charge of character, I can't really give you the solid implementation since there is no solid implementation right now.
Who is?
Frank,
And he's not here now. Okay.
you could talk to him
Can
on
you
Friday.
send me the link again to your website so I can download the program?
The program?
Yeah.
Which program?
The game.
The source code?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me. Oops, wrong guy. Get NGA. Let me check if I added you onto the contributors list. Oh wait, no, it doesn't have to. Password. Okay, what's your GitHub account name?
It could be strap. Same thing as.
There's a lot of straps.
Uh-oh.
At
Totally forgot. Hold on.
Okay,
Let me get on this. So what is it? GitHub?
right. And I sent.
Sign in.
Okay. I'll see if I could talk to Frank. Let him know that we have a lot of people waiting for his character class, and if we can't get him to work on the character class, then we might need to move his responsibilities. For the time being.
Oh, I guess I have to sign up. Yay.
Okay, Nick, do you have any questions? Besides the remove go thing, which I still can't seem to figure out what the problem is.
So, remove go, centering the sprites and other things. I
Oh,
guess.
I think I know why. Do you have any functions that is keeping track of those enemies? Because
functions that is keeping track of the enemies? What does that mean?
so because when we remove go, I assume that Java's kind of garbage collector is collecting that object.
Tracking. So basically, there's no reference. The object dies. So Java's garbage collector garbage
is not
collects
reliable.
when nothing is referencing that enemy anymore. Yes.
I know what to do. I just need to make sure that whatever you're implementing, make sure that no one has a reference to that object,
Dang it.
to that enemy, right? No one
I
has.
don't think
a
I have
reference.
any references to enemy.
Okay, so that way
But-
Java garbage collector will remove it. But that being said, I remember never trust Java's garbage collector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to force it to remove collidable. So basically what you were doing, and remove is visible. And hopefully at a certain time in our game, or at some instance delta time, Java's garbage collector will kick in and start collecting stuff. Hopefully.
Right.
Assuming that we don't have any references to the enemies. So make sure that you don't have any. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I do not have any references. But yeah.
Another workaround we could do is have an interface called isDeletable and then call a delete function, making sure that we always delete it. But
Oh,
since
no.
GameObject already has something similar to that, we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Let me add the collaborator.
Right. So right now, projectile also takes a sprite owner.
Oops.
That's all I did, pretty much, and listen to you and everybody else talk for today.
Okay. And I've just added Nate. Oh, one more thing, you guys. On GitHub is amazing. There's so many different things you can do on GitHub. You can have a wiki page, which I'll try to see if I could get this wiki page up and running, which requires a ton of documentation. Luckily, midterms were over this week, so I have more time. And we still have issues. So if you have, or if you see any problems inside the code that we are using, please submit an issue. If you submit an issue, I'll be able to see it, and I'll be able to comment, work on the code, or everyone can help work on the code. And that way we don't have to send emails, and we'll be able to have clear documentation of the issue here. And each issue can have sort of which branch it's required, and other information that's more Git related. For example, we had one issue, and this was sort of me testing it as well, where I told whoever was in charge of any class, I believe it was Nick, that DTime didn't have units. And so I made that comment, and then we had a nice long chat, and then we finished the issue. So I closed the issue, and once an issue is closed, we assume that it's been fixed. And so you could start an issue, or you can respond to an issue and fix that problem. And so if I, let's say, post an issue on something on the weapons branch, and whoever's in charge of that weapons branch will need to fix that issue, as we don't know, as this project gets larger and larger, we wouldn't know who's in charge of, we wouldn't know the code that everyone else is in charge of. Like, for example, I right now have no idea how enemy works. Okay, not no idea at all, but I don't know the specific details. And this will definitely be the case as we continue working on this project. And so please, if you, let's say I have problems with enemy, then I will just post an issue about it, and hopefully you guys will check on that and respond to it promptly. So that also means please check on the issues in GitHub whenever you can, like when you're checking your email or something.
I think it automatically redirects, doesn't it?
Not sure, because I posted it, so I didn't get any
Yeah,
emails.
because I receive emails when I receive the charge time email. So I
You have to
think-
watch the branch, or you have to watch
Yeah.
the Git repository. So maybe if you guys want to watch,
I think I'm already watching.
okay. So if you haven't watched it, please watch it so that you'll be able to get notifications and emails.
Oh yeah. Charles, one thing. So projectile, basically, should I like code? Okay, so projectile should stay abstract, and then I make because right now enemy is abstract, and then these enemies, the implementable enemies, the only thing that the implementable enemies do is pretty much just move around. That's the only thing extra from the abstract class enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing should work with projectile, right? Projectile handles most of the sprite shebangs, and then yeah, and then like inside, I should extend this abstract projectile that to other implementable projectiles that fly differently. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make
Projectile
sense?
that flies differently.
Right. So like I'd say projectile is the abstract class,
Mhm.
and then I'd say stuff like, if suppose I wanted to make a alpha projectile, which doesn't make any sense because all my enemies are already Greek letters. So if I said projectile A extends projectile, and then all projectile A does is fly forward. So, which is basically kind of the same thing which my enemies does. I should just code implementable projectiles like that, right? Or
Right.
all right.
You implement physical things in another package.
Oh,
If that makes
so
sense.
com bullets, projectiles.
Right.
Com dot game dot engine. I mean, not what. Com dot something dot projectiles.
Right. Exactly.
Uh-huh. Okay, so I'll just make some random projectiles that do some things, and that. Oh, I think right now what enemy enemy spawner is still not worked on, but should I work on enemy spawner to make that the enemies, instead of just spawning randomly on the screen, should spawn only from the spawner?
Should spawn only from the spawner. Should spawn only
Right, because
from
right
the
now the enemies spawn wherever the hell it wants to spawn. Basically,
Right,
that's
you want to
forced
spawn
in
it
its
from
constructor.
the spawner, yes. And remember how we mentioned for spawners, you most likely want to reuse enemies instead of deleting them. Especially
why?
since we don't trust Java's garbage collection.
But reusing enemies is difficult and requires thought.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe I
such a
should
sad
go over
day.
it with you on Friday or something.
Well,
In the meantime, what?
hopefully you're able to think about it on your own first. Hopefully.
It's easier
Because
just to force you to think about it.
I do have a lot of things on my tray right now. And so I expect that you'll be able to work on your portion without not thinking. Okay? Please?
You expect people to work on their things
Yes. Please.
and think
Nick.
about it as well?
Yes. And see
They
if you
did
could
not.
try to implement the projectile without much of my help either. Because I'm sort of busy with the engine and my brain is currently full of game objects and animated sprites right now. Let me see if I could find that ETC mobile game. Is it? Here it is. Nate, no thank you. Oh, there's also prototypes of the games inside our Google Drive.
There are?
Yes.
We have prototypes?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Really? Can you play one on your screen?
Right now? Don't you have access?
Oh, I probably do, but like, what's the game like? Is it just that weird thing where the enemy just spawns everywhere and then you collide into them?
Nate, is
Like-
this yours? Nate in
Yes,
the
that's me.
Okay. Here is the repo. Here's the Google. No.
Charles, there's only negative 9 minutes left of the meeting time.
Okay. I'll speed up. Here's the Google Drive. Oh man, streaming is very tiring. I just realized
I'm not sure if there'd be anything wrong with extending the meeting time though.
Any objections?
I'm okay.
How jam?
Darn it, I really don't want to code enemy spawner, like, nicely. Whatever. What is that "we'll be right back" picture? Is that something?
That's for streams. So, you know,
Oh.
sometimes you want to use the restroom or something,
Uh-huh.
then I'll use that.
Okay.
Let's see if this one works. I think this is the one that I made. Oh, oops. I have to download it as the entire thing. It's got a zip. This one's the one that I made. It's from Unity, so
I can't remember what the heck is the folder called. Is it called ETC Mobile Games?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, here it is. Prototype.
And inside there should be mobile game group general info.
Uh-huh.
And so inside, if you scroll all the way down, our lovely member Albert, last name Jew, I believe, he made a kind of step-by-step instruction guide on how to do it, because we had an influx of people this last quarter, and so I had to kind of assign people to help others.
What's it called? Java's Developers Kit? No.
Okay, let me see if I could get the test game running. Desktop saves. Just plop it in here. Oops, I put it in my Minecraft world. That's not good. Oh well, that'll work. Let's do windowed mode. Play. Maybe I should live stream something else later. Hey, here's the game. So you have a turret. So this was testing a rotational movement mechanic.
Whoa. Is this made out of libgdx as well?
No, this is made from Unity. This was a test, and then the enemies
You can code
come.
Unity?
Yeah,
Wait, Charles, you made this all by yourself.
yeah.
Oh. Dang.
And so you're able to
That's
shoot
already a pretty
enemies,
legit game already.
and then, yeah, like that.
Wait, so how'd you make stuff out of Unity?
You learn how to use Unity and then start coding in it.
Well,
I don't know what to
Well
say.
said.
did Albert make part of it?
No, this prototypes was me and someone else who was not in that group anymore. And then
Wait,
so
but
that
if
one
they knew how to use you, sorry.
I used Unity, and he used something. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was I don't remember. But his is 2-dimensional. Mine was it looked 2-dimensional, but I ran it in 3D, and I used orthogonal projection to do it. And so because I was too lazy to code it in 2 dimensions.
Mm-hmm. But our Frank's stuff isn't actually gonna shoot like that, right?
No,
It's just
that
gonna
was
shoot.
us testing the rotational mechanics. And turns out it was kind of boring. So we decided to do the movement by always having enemies facing forward. And then you're able to move that cannon up, front, back, up, and down. But you can't rotate. As the
What?
base mechanic.
Wait, what?
You can't
So
rotate the
wait, what-
turret, basically.
Our turret can't rotate?
No. You have to move it.
So our ship, Frank's character is not designed, or
Well, he's working on the abstract class. He's not gonna do.
Oh.
Well, he could do the implementation, but he has to do abstract class first. And abstract class doesn't care about movement. Only the implementation does.
right.
And so later on,
'Cause
if we want to
my-
implement more fancy movement, we can.
My enemy does. Oh, my enemy has kill and is dead.
Right. And that should
And-
be inside a interface.
Yeah, it uses killable.
hmm
Wow.
Then we're good. So that's one piece
And-
of Frank's
Oh
work.
right, yeah. Enemy does not deal with movement. That's all the implementable alphas and betas and friends.
hmm Let me see if I could get this up and running. I have to run this in server mode since I don't know why, but the test file that he gave only runs when it's inside a server for some reason, because he used jQuery for it. and JavaScript.
Who is this guy?
His name is Tang?
Why isn't he here anymore? Did he give you a letter of resignation?
He said he was too busy, and then I never saw him ever again.
Oh. Well. That's a pretty generic story.
Localhost / test1. And this is the game thingy. And he had two types of shooting mechanics. He had the shoot one thing.
Oh, it was this one.
Yeah.
Shoot the poop
Shoot
kind
the
of
poop.
thing.
And then
Right, you showed me this before, didn't you?
yeah, and then there's
And
the center box thing.
And then I forgot all about it.
And there's the gun number 2, which is faster and bigger and fatter. And then you have gun number 3, which is just rapid fire,
Uh-huh.
like that.
It seems like there's some frame rate discrepancy, but maybe that's just because of Skype.
Probably. For me, I'm fine.
No.
And so this, he was just testing out what type of weapons might be more enjoyable. And they're all pretty fun, but the spray one is definitely much more enjoyable than the shoot ones, click ones. And so most likely the progression tree would be like shoot once, hit one for the first gun that you unlock. Or the first character.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So my implementable projectiles would probably take in some radian in the form of which direction it faces and velocity of bullet.
Right.
Wait, so my projectiles are basically the same thing as my enemy, except that projectile and enemy, one of them just holds the amount of damage it does and the other one dies.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff isn't that different at the end, isn't it?
No. I made it so that it should be pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
And now you just have to implement it. So, Nick, right now you're in the stage called the long road of implementing what you think of. I guess. I just made that up. But it's an actual thing where, you have this great idea, you thought of everything, and now you just have to implement it, which takes time,
Uh-huh.
and you don't see much results. And so this is probably the most hardest part for any programmer. And I know a lot of people that, because of this part, struggle with finishing a project.
Oh, so they're just like, wow, this does nothing and I suck, and they give up?
It's like, I've thought of everything, so I don't need to make a full-blown program. And that's usually the case, and that's why a lot of employers prefer that you finish a project. Because even though you have great ideas, if you don't finish it, you have lots of problems.
That sounds like me and my other things that I did in my life.
Yeah, that's usually the case in life. Like, I know a friend who is really brilliant, and he does a lot of mini projects that are just kind of sample code for his ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but then he stops. And then...
Yeah, but...
Yes?
Because I guess the thing is, you just think it's all pointless because there are countless games that are better than mine, so why should I finish? I just got the idea and I'm done.
Because when you actually implement it, you learn a lot more.
You do?
Yes. Yes, you do. And if you stop asking me stuff every single time, maybe you'll be able to learn it as well. Just saying.
But learning is hard, Charles.
Everyone's
It's a lot
learning.
easier just to
You
ask.
always learn in your life. Even when you are on your deathbed, you learn something.
What do you learn?
You learn that life is short. That is so morbid. I'm not saying that I actually learned it, because remember, knowledge does not equate to understanding. Yeah. At that point, you realize, I guess you can say. You learn the understanding of realizing.
Darn it, Charles. How can you think of such morbid things so much better than me? I want to learn such a skill. How to think morbidly.
It doesn't have to be morbid, though. I think I fixed game object. It should work now.
That was great.
Why do you have brackets for if statements that only have one line after it?
because I might want to add more, or there might be distinctions I want, but sometimes I don't though. And in fact, this one I don't need. That's just, I don't know. And sometimes it might not be the part, that might not be
Sometimes-
me coding it. Anything in the engine though is my
Because
coding.
every line less makes it look that much prettier.
It does.
Not necessarily.
But sometimes you can't tell which is nested into what.
That's true.
Like if I made these for loops into
Yeah,
just
it's
one
probably
line.
better to keep the brackets there.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Charles, I just realized I forgot to click the enter key a billion times
What do you mean?
because you said I was supposed to move the bracket downwards.
Yes, I've mentioned that, but you forgot it.
Right, and I forgot again.
So,
So
it looks
I'm
like
going
it's
to
going to
click
be a
the
huge
enter key on it.
process getting this thing to the point where I can actually play around with it.
Well, you've worked really fairly well with the OpenGL one, right? And I would say the OpenGL one is actually harder than this one. In fact, I could probably guide you through it right now. Go to libgdx.com, download the installer.
Charles, is there a faster way to do all this enter clicking?
No.
No.
Well,
Are
there's
you serious?
there are programs to do it, but by the time you're done setting that up, you pretty much fix everything.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay, download the setup up. Once you download it, run it. Have a folder called MGA. I'm basically repeating what's on the steps.
But Charles, everybody likes listening to your voice, apparently.
Hold on, download what? Download setup app.
Yep. Listen to my deep, manly voice now.
Listen to it.
Oh, let me set this filter up here.
Whoa. Project
Charles.
generator.
Charles.
Yes.
Charles.
Can you hear my
Uh,
deep voice? That's
Yeah.
It's kind of muffled.
When I click enter and move the brackets downwards, right?
Uh-huh.
If I do Eclipse's auto indent thingamajig, it puts it back up.
Oh.
Why is Eclipse so like against your coding standards?
Sorry, hold on. Let me see. Think of something. Should I end the stream right now? Because we started from 7 viewers and then it slowly declined to 0. Because it got boring in the middle.
I thought you were supposed to close the stream at like 1.
No, I said I will record it so that I could put it onto YouTube later.
Oh.
You know what? I need to live stream more stuff that are more fun.
But coding is boring. Unless you're Charles.
Some people watch the coding streams.
They do?
Yeah, that was a record though. 7 people live. I think that was a record. I usually have 5 or 4.
Oh, and they're just random people who have nothing better to do but
Yes.
watch you code.
Exactly. Well, that's me.
Really? They have nothing better to do?
Okay, anyways, I should end this stream right now before
People hate you.
yeah. Thank you very much for watching the stream. My name is Charles H. Chen, and if you want to watch more of these live streams, please check back so often, or if you want, subscribe. Wait, is this subscribing in Twitch?
Yes.
Who
Okay.
knows?
Sorry, I don't Twitch often. I YouTube more.
I subscribe to you, Charles.
Oh, thank you. So catch the live restreams on YouTube, or documented streams on YouTube / programming included. YouTube.com/programming included. And don't worry, you're not going to miss anything after this stream, as I'm pretty much just going to be talking to my group about more stuff that is not related to my section of coding.
Charles, no one's listening to you.
Thank you very much for telling me that. But the video is going to be documented, so I assume that someone's watching this video right now. And it's always weird when you make YouTube videos, you're just talking to yourself.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, hi, YouTube, my name is... And then you're just talking to blank screens. It's kind of sad if you think about it. Alright.
Isn't that life? You talk to blank screens anyways?
Anyways, that being said, this is all. If you have any questions, concerns, please join me at live streams, and I'll try to see if I could stream something not programming included, programming related with this project. Sometimes I might stream my own projects as well, so feel free to check those out. I believe I've done it once, but I don't remember. Okay, this is all. This is Super Kaito Kid over, and where's the end button? This is so awkward. Okay. Out.